College tennis fans, welcome to this episode of College Tennis Talk. We are joined by Ross Wilson, head men's tennis coach, University of Iowa. Ross, I want to thank you for joining us on this episode of College Tennis Talk.
Hey, thanks, Davidson. It's great to be here.
No, absolutely. Ross, we've been chatting quite a bit through the time off from our college seasons and discussing a lot of things that we're doing at home and the uncertainty of the future. One of the things I do wanted to have you discuss a little bit is really just the resurgence or the impact you've had during your time at Iowa. And I'm going to take us back to spring 2013. You bring your team to Drake, over to Des Moines.
Yeah.
And at the end of that match, Drake ended up coming out on top 7-0. And I'm bringing this up as how far you've brought this program. And at the end of that match, I'll never forget it. You lined your team up underneath the scoreboard and took photos of your team under that 7-0 score. Most teams are taking pictures on celebratory times, for remembering, for memories down the road. Tell me the reason behind that. One, do you remember that day, that night? The reasoning with that and how much you've used that, during your process there.
I actually remember that. It's funny that you brought that up. I remember I think I asked you, can you keep the scoreboard up here for another couple minutes when that happened? But, when I got to Iowa, I obviously knew, we had a big job of rebuilding ahead of us. And, you're looking at the Big Ten schedule and you're trying to compete with those teams. But, we're also kind of looking locally. And Drake was a team that was in the top 30. They'd won multiple conference titles. They'd been in the NCAAs. I mean, for me, I could look an hour and a half down the road and see, hey, if we can get to that standard, we're gonna be a heck of a program. And so, playing you guys, I think we had a pretty good year up to that point. We'd beaten Minnesota. We had a winning record, I'm pretty sure. But you guys were kind of our first, I think, really big road test. And I just wanted to have that moment to show the guys, like, hey, this is what we're shooting for. This is where we need to be. If we can beat teams like this, and I think you had was it Sal Bassick and you had Ben Lott and you had a lot of good players on that team. If we can compete with this team, then we're going to be a force to be reckoned with nationally. And so that was just something that I wanted to use as motivation for my guys. The younger guys, Dom Patrick and Matt Hagan, who I knew would be back for a couple of years after that. And then just also, for myself, because, in the state of Iowa, as Iowa State doesn't play tennis. And so it's nice to have that in-state rivalry. And
It's always nice when you win that match, though.
That is true. We've had some battles, man. We've had some battles. And it goes back and forth. I know you guys have gotten us. We've gotten you the last two, but it's always close. That's for sure.
Yeah, and I want to go back to when your team came in, and yeah, you're trying to make your mark at with that team and with your players, and there definitely was a different vibe and energy that all of our team back then could see and feel, and as you said, that was probably your first real test of the season and a bit of a wake up call. But what I don't see, or what I still see, is that you were able to maintain that energy, that positive, outlook from your players. And to this day, is like I can go back and say, okay, when Ross brought his team in, that spring to play, how into the match, how pumped up your guys were, how enthusiastic, the energy they were bringing, that never subsided. And yeah, there's some losses and some development on the way. But you can see the start and then, where you guys are right now. And I know your product's not finished, but you've taken Iowa to places they've never been before. And unfortunately, the season was cut short. You did not get able to, see if your team was getting in this NCAA tournament. You had your team in position to do it. What would that mean for you to lead your team, Iowa, to that NCAA berth?
That's been the goal, ever since I got here. And it's been a real goal, I think, the last 3 years, and something that our team talks about, a lot. These guys are here in the summers, they're playing tournaments, they're practicing. And they've really, the guys on the team have really built a strong culture here. And that's an expectation. And that would I think that mean the world to our guys, to be in the national tournament and to get to go to a regional and get to play someone in the first round and see if we can, we can get it done and make another historical moment for Iowa, and then just kind of keep advancing the program from there and, see if we can't get to a round of 16 or something like that. But that's definitely a moment we've talked about where, we've put in the work and we've gotten the results, and, we're in the Feller Club room, which is the room when you walk into Carver Hawkeye Arena, and we have the big screen up and we're watching ESPN and we see Iowa's name selected, and, we're all cheering. So that's a moment that we talk about and we envision. We'll get there, but unfortunately this year we got cut short at 22 in the country. So.
Yeah, and Ross, remind us, what's the highest ranked ranking in school history? Was it the 22?
20. I think we were ranked 20 for 2 weeks, and that's the highest that Iowa's ever been. Before that, we were 33, which we were walking into a match with you guys, I think, at Drake, my third year in, and you guys were maybe 29 and we were 33, and I think you got us 4-3. So that was the last time we made a career high ranking in the ITA ranking. So.
Well, it's disappointing for everybody, but I know for your program that the season was cut short because you guys really were having a magical season. We're talking about you wanting to get Iowa to postseason play, and recently we had Brian Boland, who went to Virginia, and Virginia had not won even an ACC championship before he arrived on campus. Then we just had Tony from Wake Forest, and Wake had never won an ACC championship before he stepped on campus. What would it take for you not only to get that NCAA berth, but to contend and possibly win the Big Ten? And do you truly believe that is possible at Iowa?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a process. I think that's possible at Iowa, but unlike some other schools, we've got a higher academic standard, and our location may be a little bit of a detriment to us, but the better that we get, the more teams are going to want to play us. But I think with our school is differentiating ourselves from other teams. And right now we're trying to do that from our peer group in the Big Ten and then outside of the Big Ten as well. Something that we've done is we've gotten a pro event on our campus. We host a 25K every summer, so that provides our guys the opportunity to play pro tennis. I mean, there's a handful of schools that are hosting them, so I think that's something. We're trying to do everything in terms of using tennis analytics to get advantages to make our guys better. We have Play Site, we have the live streaming. Just the other thing is making sure that we bring in the right type of player that's going to be successful here at Iowa. It's definitely not a place that's for everyone. But just
and Ross, what kind of player is that when you're going out on the recruiting trail? What are you looking for?
Well, I mean, number one, someone that values academics. Obviously, going to a Big Ten school, you're going to have to care about your studies and make sure you're showing up to meetings on time and going to class and valuing that. And then number two, trying to find guys that still love tennis and that's what they want to do. They want to try to play professionally when they're done, but they have more in the tank. Maybe you're not a finished product right now, but you're 6'3" and you've got a big time serve, and maybe you miss a few too many, and that may turn some coaches off, which, we've been successful with some guys like that. And then third thing is being a team player. I want guys that want to come to practice every day and be there mentally and physically and help the other 7 or 8 guys on the team get better. And those 7 or 8 guys help them and, create that camaraderie and that atmosphere every single day at practice so that when we go into the match, you mentioned the enthusiasm and the fight that our guys have. That's just what we do. That's who Iowa tennis is, and that's what an Iowa tennis player does. And those are 3 really, really big characteristics that we look for on the recruiting trail. And we've been pretty successful the last couple of years of finding those guys. And when they get into our system, they've really flourished.
So Ross, continuing and talking about building this program and your peers in the Big Ten, and you referenced Drake early on. If we can back then get to that level, we're going to be in pretty good shape. What schools, what coaches are you looking towards, or possibly even coaches that you're leaning on to, and I don't want to say mentor you, but get ideas. Okay, this is how they're doing it. This has been successful. This is what we can do at Iowa. And you also mentioned, bringing an ATP event onto campus, which is huge. So, do you have some info you can give us there?
Yeah, I mean, when I got to Iowa, the first thing that I did was I looked at, the schools in the Big Ten and I said, okay, why is Illinois, why is Ohio State? Obviously they have name recognition and their coaches are great and they've built the programs up, but what do they offer their players that we're not offering right now? And there's a whole list of things that they were doing that we weren't doing. And I think sorry, my dogs are having a little playtime there, but
No,
uh,
that's fine.
but they have a whole list of things that they were doing. I think we've kind of caught up in some areas on there, which is good. But I've tried to draw from various people. Ryan Keckley at San Diego, who've been friends with since we were younger, and Danny Bryan at Wichita State. Those are two guys that were all younger head coaches, in our first few years, and we bounce ideas off each other all the time. And then obviously Ty Tucker, who was my college coach at Ohio State, and we talk 3 or 4 times a week about everything. Scott Tilkey, who's the head coach at Kenyon, who's been doing this for over 30 years. He's won over 20 conference titles, head coach at South Alabama. National championships. Brett Macy, who's now the head coach at USC. I worked for him at USD. So it's been really nice for me to be able to take from some coaches that have already had the success, like Brett, Ty, and Scott. And then also to kick around ideas that may be a little crazier, with the younger coaches who are more my peers. And so I think kind of blending all those ideas, can give you a good pathway to improving your program year after year.
So you mentioned Ty Tucker, and you played for Ty, and you had an incredible career for the Buckeyes. What did you learn as a player that you're using now as a head coach? And when you were playing, did you realize and think, or understand, the development side of that, or you would potentially be using this later as a coach yourself?
The one thing that you can say about Ty, any player that's ever been around him, and probably every coach that's competed against him, is the guy's relentless. It's every single day that he comes to the courts or he's in the office. He's doing it at 100%. And he's doing it to win. He's competitive. And I think that attitude on our team was very infectious. I was a very competitive person coming into Ohio State, but I learned the value of having that attitude every single day. And he doesn't let you get away with anything. Like you may have had a bad day and maybe your girlfriend broke up with you, or you got a bad grade on a test, or you just weren't feeling up to it. Well, he was going to be on your butt that day, and he was going to get the most he could get out of you in every single moment of practice. And that was going to be the standard. And if you didn't, you were going to hear about it. And so I think that's something that I've taken from him. Definitely probably do it in a different way, because he's one of a kind. But I think it's so important, for me as a coach, that, every day I come in here with my guys, I'm trying to get them better. I don't care what's going on. It's a tennis time for these 3 hours. I want to find the guys that love tennis, and 3 hours are the best 3 hours of their day. And we're going to try to work as hard as we can and let the results fall where they may. But at the end of the season, after those 144 days are over, we're going to at least look ourselves in the mirror and say, hey, we did everything we could to improve. We were a team. We competed together, and we can't wait to do it again the next year. But and I think that was very similar to Ohio State.
Yeah, well, you talk about trying to get your team better, and Ross, you're definitely doing that. And you have the respect out of just about every coach in the country on what you've been able to do at the University of Iowa. So congratulations, and we all applaud you on that.
Thank you.
We're in this time of and I keep saying of uncertainty, and it's a phrase word that is being thrown over and over again. And we really don't know what the future of college tennis, for this upcoming season, and then looking on down the line. You and I briefly talked about, different options, scheduling options, how do we get a stability? How do we create a new model for college tennis? And I was hoping that you would be able to share a few of the ideas that you've had, some of the ideas that we've discussed.
Yeah, I've actually talked with my assistant, Lloyd Bruce Burgess, who's doing a great job here, a lot about this. And, this is a little bit radical, but I really think that, if you're looking at cost containment and you're trying to get really the best teams to play each other at the most parts of at the non-conference parts of the year, I think possibly having tournaments, and maybe you have the top 8 teams come to a site, and then you kind of work down the line, and and the top 100 teams in the country get to play each other, and instead of an ITA kickoff, but you get to play 1 through 8 plays at a site, 9 through 16 and so on play at a site. And then you create other tournaments. I think the Blue Gray, they've proven that, that's been a tournament I know a lot of people want to get into. There's other USD.
Well, yeah, you and I have taken both our programs. Once you were coaching at San Diego when we brought the Drake team out there, and I know now that you're at Iowa, you're taking your Iowa team out to San Diego State spring event. There's plenty throughout the country. It's not a bad idea.
Yeah, and I think too, I mean, as a team, it's fun to win something. I mean, I remember we're at the USD invite, and I remember watching Oregon win it one year, and I can't remember if did you guys win it one year? Or
we were lucky enough to win it, and it was a great event. We picked up 3 wins in the top 30, top 25 in the country, and you're right. It means a lot to win something and be able to put your hands on a trophy.
Mm-hmm. And it's something too that other programs that maybe aren't going to have the opportunity every year to win a conference title, and in your trophy case you can put that trophy in there, and guys can go back and say, oh man, I can't wait to go to the San Diego tournament or the Iowa tournament. That was awesome when we won 4-3. I think that gets teams playing from other conferences more that are in the similar ranking range. I think that gives the players a little bit more excitement. And I also think, when we're talking about trying to get tennis on TV and you're trying to, build up events, you could set up a TV crew there for 3 days, and you could have 8 teams show up, and you could get a bunch of matches, on TV. And so
do you think this is something that coaches need to come together and start putting these together on their own? Or do you think this is something that the ITA needs to get heavily involved with?
Well, I mean, I think it's something that obviously I think coaches have shown that they're doing it around the country, maybe on some smaller scales. I know that a lot of mid-majors programs, it's tough to travel, so they probably do this more than the major programs. But I mean, I think the ITA should definitely start discussing this, because I think there's a lot of value to it. I think you could build a nice fan base who want to go watch that tournament every year, and I think you've got a bunch of different locations throughout the country, because these schools have such great venues that you can find really nice places to play, and you could stay there for 4 days and get 3 or 4 good matches in.
It's brilliant, and I'm 100% on board with this. And the ITA did a great job with the ITA kickoff and promoting that. But the last few years, we've seen a few more teams opt not to play the kickoff and kind of host these little 3-team, 4-team dual match weekends, and they haven't really set them up as a tournament play as you're discussing. But the idea and the creativity has kind of already been there. And I'm really hoping that you're able to, share this message and kind of get this out there, because I think many coaches across the country would support this.
Yeah, I hope so too. I think it'd be a cool thing for the sport. I know it's a little, different, and some of the top teams may not like that, but I think it's definitely it's progressive for our sport, I think.
No, I appreciate you. Being willing to share that with our viewers. That's awesome.
Hey, if I get a couple texts that say they don't like it, I'm not going to be offended. So,
well, I'll make sure I send you a text with a thumbs up or something.
Sounds good, man.
All right, Ross, we're going to move on to another segment of our show called Quick Volleys. So I hope you're ready for some fast action.
I've seen it a few times. I'm ready.
You're ready. You've been prepping for this.
That's right.
All right, I'll see if I can handle it. All right, ready? You're starting a match. Serve or return?
Always serve. I always want to start up 1-0 and be up 5-4 with a chance to win the set.
So you're always counting on holding. I like that confidence.
Mm-hmm.
All right, no ad. Like or dislike?
I like it. I think it makes the guys really focus in, knowing there's only a handful of points in the game, and it gets the big points quicker.
All right. Best venue in the Big Ten?
God, this was a tough one. I was thinking about this a lot, and as much as I don't want to say it because they're, one of our rivals from when I was a player and now, but I think Michigan's got a great venue.
All right.
But there's a lot of good venues in the Big Ten as well.
Best venue in the country?
I have to say Georgia, just because I remember playing, the round of 16 night match my freshman year there. it's unbelievable atmosphere, a lot of history there, and they've done a great job with that place.
All right. Toughest place to play in the Big Ten?
I gotta say, I gotta say Ohio State, probably just because of the number of fans that they get and the winning streak that they had from when I was a freshman till I think maybe 4 or 5 years ago. So tough place to play, but Iowa's not easy either. We've got a great home record here over the last 3 or 4 years, and they got to travel a lot of miles to get there. So that helps us out a little bit.
All right. Toughest place to play in the country?
I mean, the places that we've played, I would say Texas Tech or BYU. BYU, I remember you're sitting there and you do a prayer with them, and then the lion comes running across the court, and then the fans they get after you over there. You got the altitude to deal with and everything, so that's a tough place to play. And Texas Tech outdoors and the wind.
Yeah, I think any place with altitude is the toughest place to play in the country. All right, hey, most influential person to you as a player?
As a player, I probably have to say 3 people: Ty Tucker, Chris Garner, and David Schilling, who just took the job at Denison. Those are our coaches at Ohio State. Had a big effect on me, and can't thank them enough for everything they did, putting up with me over those 4 years,
All right. The most influential as a coach?
Again, probably Ty, and then Scott Tilkey, who was one of my bosses at Kenyon, and Brett Macy at USD, who was one of my bosses as well.
All right. More difficult to play for, Ty Tucker or Ross Wilson?
Oh man, like I said earlier, he's one of a kind, man. I mean, he's intense. I think I'm intense too, but I'm not sure I'm at that level. So I'd have to say Ty is much more difficult to play for.
Okay. All right. We'll ease the topics up a bit here. Favorite book?
I'd say I've got a couple, but Tipping Point by Malcolm Gladwell. It's a pretty good one. It's one that I read in my first couple of years here at Iowa, and how to tip the scales on businesses and some other things that have happened around the world that he wrote about. I thought that was pretty good.
Do you have a favorite movie?
Rounders. I like Rounders. I don't play poker, but I like Matt Damon and Edward Norton in that movie.
All right. Current TV show you're streaming?
Billions. Billions is a good one. I think it's on HBO or Showtime, but I've been watching it for a couple of years. And Bobby Axelrod, great character in that.
All right. Hobby off the tennis court?
Golf. Trying to play, got a little more time now, so able to get out to the Iowa golf course and see how good I can get.
What's your current handicap?
Man, I just play, but I'm probably shooting.
You're one of those guys. All right.
At the best, I'm probably shooting 84. On the average, I'm probably at 88. So
yeah. All right. I like it. All right. Who is better at Golden Tee? Tony Bresky or Ross Wilson?
I would have to say Tony right now. I think he's gotten a couple year head start on me, and when you look at his profile, he's probably played about 30,000 more games than I have. So he's
when does that guy have time to coach and recruit?
I don't know. I mean, he might be talking on the phone while he's playing Golden Tee. Maybe he has like a headset on or something.
Oh, he's that good. Do you think Tony is the best Golden Tee player in college tennis?
From what I've heard and seen, yes, I would say he is. But with the quarantine, I'm coming up. I'm getting better.
And you have a Golden Tee machine unit in your house now?
I do, yeah. We actually just built a wet bar downstairs, and I said one of the things that I wanted was a home edition Golden Tee. So my wife allowed me to have that, which was nice of her.
All right, man, practice up. Tony, he's coming for you. All right. What was the first racket you ever used?
Actually, a Bard. I don't even know if anyone knows this type of racket. It was a Bard racket. My dad had bought it for me for Christmas. And one day in the summer, he asked me, "Do you want to go play tennis?" And I never even heard of tennis. I was 7 years old. And he said, "I gave you a racket for Christmas." And then I told him he didn't. And then he opens my closet. He's tearing it apart. And then he looks behind his bed and he finds this like orange barred racket, and he's like, "Oh, I never gave it to you." And so went out to the high school and played tennis for the first time.
Did you beat him?
I was pretty good. I don't know if we even knew how to keep score at that point. I think it was just who missed first, but he may have got me then, but it wasn't too long after that where I started beating him.
All right. The racket you used during your collegiate career?
Wilson Pro Staff Classic SI, the Edberg racket.
Oh, wow. We've had a lot of Pro Staff 6.1s, but I haven't heard the Edberg style.
That's I think that was a 6.1. Maybe that was the first version of it.
Okay.
Black,
right,
yellow.
So, what is your current racket of choice?
Babolat Pure Drive. I need the extra power and lightness for some racket head speed to hit with these guys still.
You have a preferred string?
RPM.
Tension?
Man. Maybe, I don't even know, 52 maybe 48, something like that.
Your stringer just does it for you and surprises you.
He does, and my strings don't break too often. So.
He knows what you like and what suits your game. That's a good stringer.
Exactly.
All right, man. Most memorable match as a player?
Probably my senior year in the Big Ten Finals. I came back from 5-1 at 3 all-in matches in the third set to beat Ruben Gonzalez from Illinois and give us the Big Ten title at University of Minnesota. So it was a unbelievable match. Just remember, there's probably like a 6-foot drop off at Minnesota from the stands to the court. And after I won, all the guys jumped off it and rushed the court. And Ty Tucker picked
any injuries, or everybody stay healthy?
No, we were all good. I think we were too excited to be injured at that point.
Okay. Most memorable match as a collegiate head coach?
Probably maybe my third or fourth year where we played the ITA kickoff down in Texas Tech, and we beat them 4-3. They were just coming off winning the Big 12, and it was against Brett Macy, who was my former boss, and we somehow pulled it off outdoors with only about an hour and a half to practice because of some plane flight cancellations, things like that. So,
I thought maybe it would be you ending our 7-year run over Iowa.
That was a big one too. I'll be honest. That was a huge win for us last year.
Anyway, I had to throw that in there, man, because you're definitely doing a great job and have your team in an incredible position right now. And now we're looking up to you guys. So, again, I applaud you for everything you've done. You've done it the right way. I love watching your team compete, whether it's against us or when we have the opportunity to watch you at a neutral site and your team competing at, regionals, All-Americans. It's a delight, man. So keep up the great work. Proud that we've been able to become friends, through our coaching careers, and I'll keep watching your development and future, man.
Thanks. I appreciate you having me on, and appreciate everything that you're doing for college tennis. I mean, we need content, and I'm watching all the interviews and everything that you're doing. So keep up the good work, and we'll be battling against each other soon on the court, I'm sure.
Well, I might need your analytics to help me improve my my hosting skills here. So I'll look for some feedback.
Sounds good. I'm willing to help out.
All right, man. Take care. I appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, Davidson.